What's going on, guys? One of my favorite subjects again is the idea of speed and how to use that and break this whole concept down of running the bases. So by now, hopefully you've heard running the bases and you understand it's a four-step process, which is why we have bases. Essentially, you have your first base here, you have your second, and you have your third, and you have home. And this idea is essentially very simple. It is the first base is where you start. This is where you get your initial. Second base is where you get your ISO 1, ISO 2, and your PMI. And that's how we run the bases. And initials are basically concerning the customer's main concern. So if you have multiple concerns, you ask them what's your main concern. And that's why you focus on the initial solution for the main concern. And you will not go over $600 on the first pitch. And you do this within 15 minutes if it's a waiter to 35 minutes or so if it's a drop-off. So this is where you start. The car comes in, it gets dropped off, and that's how you hit your first base. And that's generally 15 minutes, like I said, $600, and only the main concern. I like the idea of getting diagnosis, but we're going to get into that soon. The next is your second base, and second base is always going to be based on the first concern being isolated. You will isolate. So if you sell a part, you go only in that system. And again, this is going to be 600 to 800. If you want to go a little bit more, that's fine. But that's generally the rule. And a little bit more, I would say like $1,000, right? And we're going to have examples that'll show this. So again, you're focused on the system. You're not leaving that system. You're going to sell the initial concern, and you're going to focus on that system. And then from there on, you go into third base. And here you further dig in that system to make sure the whole system is taken care of. And you could also go into second concern. Now, a lot of guys are like, well, Zane, can I go to second concern here? Yes, you can, but not at the expense of not isolating the original concern system. You don't want to half-ass have two repairs. I'd rather you do full repair on one system before you move on to the next. And that's why I like this idea of the main system, the main concern. You do that first, and then you can get into the second concern, and then here you could even get into the second concern system. You could even do the whole system here. So this pitch could be bigger. You could go 800 to even 1600 if you really push it. But again, if you want to have a really safe way to do it, is to just keep that between 600 and 800. That's like the safe bet. You're going to get way more buy-in because why? Because it's easier to explain. We're not trying to do bait and switch. We're trying to do easier to explain. Because customers don't like when you talk about a bunch of things in one call. You're actually doing bite-sized pieces. Bite-sized, you take a bite here, you take a bite here, and you take a bite here, and they understand, like, okay, and not only that, are you communicating with them constantly, 100%? How often? Well, you did 35 minutes here, you're going to do roughly about an hour over here, right? And you're going to do roughly about an hour to 1.5 hours here. So here you're calling them what? Like, call. You've been 2.5, 3 hours and you've already touched point with them so many times. And customers love that because why? The number one concern that customers have with auto shops is what? Year after year is they don't call. They don't call. And they have my most expensive thing. Most people's car is either their most or second most expensive thing they own after their house. And if they don't have a house, it's their most expensive thing. And they get very, very... What? Then when you don't call them what? They get scared. They get nervous. They don't have a car. So when we call them, that's already you're giving them great customer service. Remember, guys, if your customer service is number one, your price can be the highest. And if I were to tell you what's number one customer service, it is just communication. All of it. Communication. Speed, right? The speed of communication, the quality, the quantity, all of it. All of it is customer service. And if you can get better at communication, you can absolutely get better at charging people more money. So anyway, going back to the PMI, again, you've ran the base, and here you get another, again, hour-ish. And over here, I will tell you right now, you can go 600 to 1200. Ideally, that's the safe range, but if you go over, you want to go up to 1600, have at it, but be careful, right? You don't want to lose pitches because you just pitch too much. But at the same time, you don't want to pitch too little and then, have to call the customer a million times. So there is a balance, and that's where training and reps will make you a better person. But that all said, guys, I hope it all helps. We're talking about, first base essentially means what? You're going to be 35 minutes in. total, you know, you're looking at 600 bucks. So ideally you close the 600 bucks here. Here you pitch 600 to 800, say you close $700 here. So now your total running is what, $1,300. And remember, between these pitches, what are you doing? You're prepping. You're saying, hey, I'll call you in the next 30 minutes. Hey, I'll call you in the next 2 hours, and you call them in an hour. You always under promise and over deliver. You're prepping. You're prepping between each one of these calls. So at the end of the call, you're saying, hey, I'm going to call you back. That way you're not shocking the customer. So again, 1,300 here. Say you close another, I don't know, 800 over here. You know, and the customer has an update. So now your total running total is $2,100, right? And here again, say you close another 700 here. So now your running total is $2,800. So now you know how to build big tickets. And that's how we do it, guys. We run the bases, and you know, that is pretty much the overlay of how. And not only that, you know, there's so many benefits to this. Like I said, communication is huge. You're able to communicate with your customer. You're able to break down the process. You know, you're, instead of throwing the kitchen sink, as they say, at your customer, you're breaking down the process. They're able to understand it. You know, you're able to give them multiple updates. Not only that, you're able to verify, because guess what? As your guy does, your technician does a work here, you're able to verify. We'll get into that in another video. You're able to verify the problems, because a lot of times you start taking things apart, and a lot of these cars are, you know, these shops will tell customers, hey, this is all it's going to be, and then they take it apart, like, ah, crap. Never tell the customer this is all it's going to be, because you don't know. Once you get it apart, that's when you actually know. So this allows us to do that. You know, it does, what other things it does is it focuses, right? It lets you focus on the system. You know, and it doesn't, there's no guessing. You know, there's no guessing in this. You're going to do this, and you're going to have a consistent system. That's a huge thing. Every customer gets the same experience. You know, you don't have a customer that's going to get, you know, one experience versus another. And of course, this helps you sell more, which means what? Selling more, by the way, comes from, this is a whole different topic once again, but it comes from your ability to transfer belief. That's what sales is. And what we're doing is we're making it easy to transfer belief. We're able, because again, if you were to pitch all this in one, imagine you were to explain all of this to the customer. And again, there's 100% integrity. You'll never pitch anything that's not needed. But imagine this car needed all this work, right? It needed a water pump, it needed hoses, it needed a coolant flush. Here it needed, I don't know, a belt. And then you also found out that, you know, one of the pulleys on the belt system is bad, an idler pulley and a tensioner. And then you went and checked all the other fluids. You had to do a brake fluid. You had to do some other things. Imagine trying to do that all in one go, right? Imagine this would have been like a $5,000 quote. And going through that in one phone call, it's like throwing the kitchen sink at the customer. And it's scary. People don't like that. That's their second concern, is they always pitch me stuff that I don't think I feel I need. And the reason they feel that isn't because their car doesn't need it. It's just because they don't understand it. And what this process does is it makes it easy for the customer to understand, because you're prepping, you're giving them bite-sized pieces, you're giving them one, you know, small thing at a time, you're explaining things to them, you're sending photos at every interval. That's another thing, right? You're sending DVIs, you're sending photos. Hey, Johnny, I got you some more photos. And if somebody really wants to fix their car, we're giving them the opportunity to not only do so, but also understand the whole process. So the next time their car breaks down, they actually got an education along with their repair. And this is why this process is so powerful, and we're able to do it at scale, right? It's like people are like, well, this isn't the best way. I'm not claiming it is, but I'll tell you what, it sells $15 million and it keeps customers happy, and it makes my team not waste time, you know, pitching the whole sink and inspecting the whole car when it doesn't have to do with the customer's main concern, right? If you have a better system, I'm more than happy to implement it. But this is 18 years right here, guys. So I love running the bases. I love the idea of communicating constantly. I love breaking it down for the customer. I love focusing on the system. I love the fact that it's consistent every single time. I love the fact that it allows us to sell more without pissing the customer off. It doesn't feel like a sale, because it's like you're calling them an update. I never say, hey, I'll call you back to sell you more stuff. No, once I have an update, I'll call you, which I already know I'm ahead of the game, because I know what the landscape looks like, and the customer is prepared, and we don't look like, honestly, idiots. We look very professional because we're already aware of the next step. So there's no ambiguity, and you can actually prepare to the customer. Hey, you're going to get a call from me in an hour and a half, and I'll let you know what's going on. If you have any questions, you can always call me back, but I'll have you an update for you here shortly. Guys, I hope it helps. This is very powerful. Running the bases, for me, it'll change your life. It'll change your auto repair, and it will change how the industry is perceived by our customers. I hope it helps. Do it genuinely, do it with 100% integrity and honesty, and this will absolutely crush it. Thank you very much.